Hello, and welcome back to Patrick Replies, the show on the second channel where I, Patrick, reply to the comments and questions about the latest video, or in this case, a video from like 8 months ago, a very long time ago, the video about the Cannes Film Festival 2024, which feels appropriate because just yesterday I submitted my application for the 2025 festival. So wow, I really hope I can remember what I was thinking back when I made this. But look, we're catching up on these and I'm gonna do the best that I can. Now, before we dive into specific comments about the video, there are a couple things about the overall response here that I would like to address. The first is the little part of the video where I went to a movie theater in Cannes to see Furiosa, and I hoped that it would be in English because the movie is originally in English, and instead it was dubbed into French, and so I left the theater. When this happened, while it was a little bit frustrating in real life, but right away I recognized this is funny. I think this is a funny little incident. I made a silly mistake, oops. And I told my friends, and they thought it was funny, and I put it in the video because I thought people would think it was funny. And instead, a lot of people got mad at me, telling me I was an ignorant, entitled American for having the gall, no pun intended, to go to France and then be mad that a movie was in French. Like, of course it is. You fool. And I gotta say, I found a lot of these comments rather rude, and I didn't appreciate them. So, since I have this platform, please allow me to retort. Although, I'm doing this 8 months later, so it's unlikely that anyone who posted those rude comments is gonna be watching this. But anyway, indulge me. So first of all, I was at the Cannes Film Festival, where the whole time I was watching all these movies, often at the very same theater where I went to see Furiosa, because that's one of the locations for the festival. And all the movies I watched were played in their original languages with French subtitles. And so that's what I had been used to all week. Second of all, I've gone to see English movies in France before, and they played in English with French subtitles. And yeah, it was in Paris, which I understand now that that's more common in Paris than in smaller cities like Cannes. But again, based on my past experience, this is what I was led to believe it would be like. And the other thing, which I think is really relevant, is that in the US, when foreign language movies play in theaters, it is actually extremely uncommon to have them dubbed into English, with the exception of anime movies. So like, obviously, if it's like a Miyazaki movie, they get a big like all-star cast to do the English dub. But if it's a live action movie, it's always going to play in its original language with English subtitles. That has just been the standard operating procedure for, I think, decades now. And yes, I'm aware that there is a whole dubbing industry, especially in Europe, where they will get like big stars in that country to do the dub of movies, and I'm sure they do a good job. But look, this is not a case of me complaining that a movie playing in a theater in France is not in English, the language that I speak. This is me simply getting a little bit frustrated that a movie was not played in its original language. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's that crazy a request to ask that a movie be played in its original language, because I think most of us would agree that's the best way to watch it. So again, I'm sorry that I was ignorant and uninformed. Again, I did really try to do my research and check the website and look for some kind of indication about what the language was. I didn't blindly walk in and be like, surely this will be in my language. And also, like I said in the video, other people there made the same mistake. I was not the only one. So yeah, I'm sorry for thinking that people might find that amusing. How dare I show myself making what I thought was a comical mistake, which ended up just making people mad. So I sure learned my lesson. Okay, and the second thing about this video that I should acknowledge, and this will be, I think, the last time that I ever talk about this, is the film Emilia, Pérez, which has become quite the controversial film. And what I have learned is that in the time since I saw it at Cannes, people on the internet are mad at me for enjoying it back at the festival. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I've been told by friends that people have like requested that I make like a public apology. And also actually most of this I believe is based on my Letterboxd review, not the video or whatever. And so here's what I want to say about that. No, I'm not going to apologize for my reaction to a movie, but I will say watching a movie at a film festival where you know absolutely nothing about it going in. You're going in completely blind. There's been no marketing or anything like that. It's extremely different than using this movie as an example, watching it after it's gotten like 13 Oscar nominations and also everyone on the internet is saying it's a horrible movie that you were like morally obligated to hate. And I'm not saying that people who hate that movie would have enjoyed it if they'd seen it the way I did, but I do think some people might have had a different reaction to it if they were not watching it with the baggage that now everyone else is. But look, to talk a bit more about my experience with it, it was a really long day, watching a lot of movies. I had gotten up at 5 a.m. that morning. Some movies were just very slow and difficult, and my friends and I went into that one, and it was just like, it was a movie that was like making choices and like I didn't know it was a musical, and it was just exciting to watch a movie with a lot of energy that was making big choices, and I was entertained. And you know what? My friends also enjoyed it and wrote positive reviews about it. In like actual publications, they wrote real reviews, not like a one-sentence Letterboxd review. And to be clear, it was not like one of my favorite movies at the festival. Like in the vetoes, it did not make my top 25. At this point, I'll probably never watch it again because there's a very real chance that I'll put it on and just be like, what was I thinking at the time? But that was a movie that when I watched it, I thought maybe this will become like a cult movie or like kind of like, you know, like a sleeper hit or whatever. I never guessed that it would become like an Oscar frontrunner. And I do think that had an impact on people's reactions to it. But yeah, all I can say is that watching something at a film festival, going in totally blind when you're watching a ton of movies every day, it's just very different than how we watch pretty much everything else. And maybe it's better. Maybe it's better. Maybe we would all enjoy movies more if we just, you know, walked into them with zero knowledge and zero preconceived expectations, zero buzz and word of mouth and all of that. But so no, I'm not going to apologize for enjoying it last May. I have no idea if I still would, but people need to chill out. That's all. All right, and so with those finally out of the way, let's move on to the comments pulled from the YouTube comments section by Elliot Gammons, and let's see what we got. Okay. Sam Fisher says, Patrick wearing his trademark shirt to a concert for a joke feels so on brand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, of course, I do just own a lot of, you know, navy and white horizontal striped shirts, but in that instance, I did deliberately wear it to the Eras Tour for that gag, you know, knowing I was going to shoot one video for a little cutaway at that concert. And yeah, it did just feel appropriate that I'd be wearing, I guess, my trademark shirt. So yeah, I mean, we gotta stay on brand. Cartilage Head says, the discourse about Goro Miyazaki and his complicated, at times difficult relationship with his father, both as people and as artists, provides an interesting dichotomy with Coppola, a man who has famously involved his children and family in every facet of his work, and who has spent decades unabashedly centering and championing them, often to pushback and criticism from the press and commentators. Where the elder Miyazaki can be said to be ambivalent at best about his son's pursuit of filmmaking, you've got 4 decades of family Coppola projects where a core tenet of the movie is, I made this with my kids and I think that's awesome. I'm so proud of them and I don't care what you think about that. Yeah, you know, I gotta say, complain about Nepo babies all you want. I just think the Coppola family is really endearing, and I like Francis involving the kids in the process. And also, I would say Sophia has proved herself many times over to be a great enough filmmaker that we don't need to complain about her being a Nepo baby. And look, I mean, it's the thing with Coppola. We talked about it in the Coppola videos back in 2020, but like, you know, You look at The Godfather, he's making movies about like family businesses. He's making his own like filmmaking setup and process into a family business. It's like, it's life imitating art. It just makes sense, and I like it. And the Coppola thing also just feels very Italian, so it makes sense to me. And in terms of the Miyazakis and their relationship and Japanese culture, I am not going to speak on that because I just absolutely do not know enough about it. I don't know if that is at all reflective of Japanese culture or if it's just a Miyazaki thing. What I can say is Hayao relationship with Goro in his movies is very different than Francis's relationship with, like, Sofia and her movies. Personally, I would rather be Francis Ford Coppola's son than Miyazaki's. I mean, you might get, like, a wine named after you. Also, like, I've had the Sofia Rosé, and it's good. Kevatak says, if Goro Miyazaki has 1 million fans, I'm one of them. If Goro Miyazaki has 1 fan, I'm that one. If Goro Miyazaki has no fans, that means I'm dead. I just want him to be happy. Also, Poppy Hill is top 5 Ghibli. I will die on this hill. That is a hot take. I will say, I like Poppy Hill. I think From Up on Poppy Hill is a good movie. That said, I don't think I'd rank it above any of his dad's movies. I would not put it even in like the top 20 Ghibli, but I appreciate that you're a real fan, because Goro seems like a nice guy, and I want him to have fans. I just don't want him to make any more, like, ugly CG movies like that Earwig one that I never actually watched. Elisel says, there should be a rule that Netflix has to do a 4-week theatrical run for anything they buy at a film festival. I hate that artists work so hard to then have Netflix bury their work no matter how commercially viable it might be. Plus, there's got to be a way for audiences to differentiate between this and the usual drivel that Netflix commissions. Looking at you, Red Notice. I totally agree. But here's the thing. You're saying that for Netflix movies, they should do a 4-week theatrical run? I would like to request that all studios do a 4-week theatrical run, because it has now become way too common for movies to open in theaters and then be like on VOD 2 weeks later. That's not good for anyone. That's stupid. I don't like it. Recently, in a speech, Sean Baker was talking about how all movies should have a 3-month theatrical window, and I could not agree more. That's exactly what it should be. If people don't want to go to a movie theater, make them wait. That's what I say. Oh, okay. This is a very long question, and I will try to summarize it. It's from Sophiaro. So basically, if you want to read this whole comment, you can pause it. It's probably filling the whole screen because it's a very long one, but this is actually pretty interesting. So this is basically about the dubbing industry and the history of dubbing in Europe and why it is more common in France and Germany. Apparently, fascist regimes used dubs as censorship and for propaganda purposes, as was the case in Germany and Italy. And of course, Scandinavian countries do not tend to use dubbing as much. They tend to do more subtitling. I saw Hitman in a theater in Stockholm. So look, what I will say is that thanks to this video and the response to it, I have learned a lot about dubbing in Europe. Maddie Vol says, Patrick, I have to say, your composer is amazing. Consistently and easily the best music from any video essayist out there. I'm still not over that transition into the Mission Impossible theme. Amazing. Yes, we cannot say this enough. Brian Matolius is the best in the biz. He's so good. Obviously, like the music that he did for like the intro to the Can video is so great. The one you mentioned in the comment, the one in the Taylor Swift video where he did the kind of like parody cover of All Too Well by Taylor Swift that Chloe sang vocals on, and then at the end of it he like segued into the Mission Impossible theme. It's incredible. Anyway, Brian is currently finishing up his score for The Dinner Plan, coming soon, and it rocks. He did a really good job. Brian is amazing. Brian is amazing. You should hire him, but don't make him so busy that he won't be able to work with me anymore, because I plan on working with Brian for many years to come. Lucas Gordon says, was great meeting you there, at Megalopolis no less. Hello, Lucas. I mean, well, hello like 8 months later, but thanks for saying hi at Megalopolis, and what a time that was. Jack Dearman says, I can't wait for Megalopolis, but I'll never stop yelling about how Coppola stole the whole in-house actor interacting with the screen gag from Muppet Vision 3D. I mean, okay, you raise an interesting point there, but aren't there like multiple like theme park attractions that have that kind of thing? Like, isn't Terminator 2 Battle Across Time like a similar thing? Doesn't that have an interaction with like live actors in the theater with stuff happening on screen? Maybe. I don't know. Look, here's the thing. It's cool. It's really fun when it happens. And it would be fun if Francis was like, yeah, I got the idea from Muppet Vision. But here's the thing. Shouldn't way more filmmakers steal ideas from the Muppets? Yes, of course they should. Like, this should be a trend. B1949 D6E. Okay. About Horizon. You panned it for not being a traditional 2-hour, 3-act movie, implying that nothing else belongs in a movie theater. At the same time, you bemoan straight to streaming. Costner's intent, which I think he made clear, was to try a new form of limited series with a theatrical release. But you did not review his intention. Was it valid, and did he achieve it? I think Costner does have a good idea in that a 12-hour series can do things no 2-hour movie can do. And maybe a high-quality series does deserve to be seen on the big screen. He took a huge gamble on this, time and money. I think he deserves better reviews, since it seems all critics merely said, well, I want my standard 3 acts, as if they were unaware a potential revolution was in the making, or at least being attempted. Okay, so talking about Costner's intention, I've got to say, when I went into that movie, and then even like I've read some interviews with him, but I had not seen anything about him describing it or talking about it as a miniseries released theatrically. It was presented as a movie. Originally, it was promised to be a 2-part thing, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be like one giant 6-hour thing split into 2 halves, or like chapter 1 and then its sequel, but nothing about it to me indicated that it was going to be a 12-hour TV miniseries. And like I said in the video, I went into Horizon excited. I was pro Costner making a big passion project. I am pro Costner as a movie star and as a filmmaker. I want a big epic Western. But like, here's the thing. There have been all these movies recently that are like like split into 2 parts, whether it's like Across the Spider-Verse or Dune 1 and 2. Like the first Dune, it's great. I love it. But it is also like half a movie. And I didn't, come out of that complaining that it didn't have like a 3rd act or didn't have a resolution. My issue with Horizon was mostly that it was like, it felt like I was just watching a TV show, but also just an okay TV show. Yeah, it wasn't so much the structure of it. It's just like I just wanted it to be better. I totally would have been fine with like a lack of closure and resolution, since I knew part 2 was coming very soon and was like already finished, if I just found part 1 more compelling. I'm still gonna see part 2, but yeah, I just think as like a 3-hour experience, especially now with like such a big gap between part 1 and 2, it is just this like weird, like kind of shapeless thing where like every hour, like a new storyline comes in, you get a little bit of time with some characters, but then like it doesn't really go anywhere, and then it just stops. I gotta say, just based on the first 3 hours, I would have rather just watched this across 12 weeks as 12 episodes of TV. So yeah, regardless of what Costner's intention was, I still just wish it was better. But look, as I've made very clear, I appreciate any big, huge swing anyone is taking, and we always want to see more of them. Gloria LB says, as one of your main Iranian audiences, Patrick, I was so happy to realize you keep up with Iranian cinema too. But I'm curious about the appeal of Iranian movies for non-Iranians. Why would you sit and watch Iranian cinema? What do you get out of it? What are the definitive strengths of our movies? Because honestly, it's weird for me, even though we get our own movies more, we seem to like them less than foreign audiences. Look, I'll be honest with you. I know very little about Iranian cinema, and while I was at Cannes, I was not seeking out Iranian movies. I was not like, I want to see Iranian cinema. It was purely a thing of, there was a lot of buzz around the seat of the sacred fig, and the story about Muhammad Rasulullah was really interesting, and I was like, I just want to see this movie. I would have wanted to see it if it were from any country. It just happened to be from Iran. I should say that Iranian cinema is in general like kind of a blind spot for me. I've seen one Kiarostami movie, Certified Copy, and I should obviously see more. But yeah, that's really it. I watched this movie because it looked like it was going to be good, and I wanted to check it out, and that's really it. So yeah, that's the thing. I'm sorry to say that I don't really keep up with Iranian cinema, as you said in your comment, but maybe I should. Please tell me what else to watch. What are the best Iranian movies, and I will check them out. Fena Bastiansen, I'm very sorry if I butchered your name. Hi Patrick and Emma, great video. This has got me really excited for new releases later this year, and it's cool to hear more what it's like at a film festival. It also feels like a nice continuation of the last video about the future of cinema, like a more practical follow-up, and by extension, of course, the videos last year about the state of cinema. So kudos, thank you. From what you've explained in the video, it seems like Megalopolis hits on similar themes maybe. I'd be interested to hear more of your thoughts about that if you have any. Okay, so talking about the connection between like the movies at Cannes and then the state of and future of cinema, that is such a big question that I really feel like I need more time to think about it. So I will say, the videos I made about the state of cinema, whether they be Who's Killing Cinema or What's Next After Superhero Movies or content or whatever, those videos got really into like the business side of things, like box office, studio decisions, like the financial aspect, like what makes money, and then what that means going forward, because that stuff does matter. Film is an expensive business, and things are usually greenlit in the hope that they will make a profit. But it was very refreshing to be at Cannes and watch all of these movies that were mostly produced independently, many of which did not even have distribution going into the festival, and basically have the business side of things like removed. We're watching movies not thinking about like what the opening weekend box office is gonna be like, because it's like, whatever. Who knows when they're even gonna get released in theaters. And so just watching movies in that environment without kind of thinking about the business side of things, except for like, you know, which gets acquired by distributors, was really nice. You just got to talk about the movies. Oh, and there's more to the comment. Also, as part of your 10% female audience and a huge Swiftie, going to see Taylor in Amsterdam in just a few days. Awesome, hope you had a great time. I loved seeing you jam out to Blank Space. Any thoughts on the Tortured Poets Department and or the Fortnite video? Oh, wow, okay, big question. I'll make this quick. I will say I'm kind of mixed on Tortured Poets. I think there are some great songs on there, such as I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, I think is the best song on the album. So Long London is great. I like Florida, then a bunch of exclamation points. I like Fortnite a lot. There's songs I really like on the album. This was finally the album where I was like, I think the sound, the like, you know, Taylor and Jack Antonoff sound is beginning to get a little repetitive, a little samey. Like part of why I loved I Can Do It With a Broken Heart so much is it sounds different. That one sounds really unique and not the kind of like steady, like kind of like pulsing synth bass thing over and over. I feel like the most mixed I've been on one of her albums in a while. I hope she kind of, I think with the next one, it's time to change up the sound a little bit. So there we go. Oh, and the Fortnite video, I think it's a pretty good video. She's continuing to evolve and get more interesting and experimental as a filmmaker. And I will say, while I'm mixed on the album, I think the Tortured Poets section of the Eras Tour might be the strongest section of the entire show. Like watching that part, it kind of felt like the album was written to be performed like in that section there. There was such a strong, clear narrative to that part of the show. I was really impressed, and it actually made me like the album more. So anyway, enough Taylor Swift talk, we're moving on. Okay, Life is Dead. Wow, that's bleak. says, I've been waiting for you to do a video on this movie. Gonzo was the first word that popped into my head when I heard about it because of you. It took me a second to realize you meant Megalopolis, but yes, Gonzo is the correct word. Alida's Sneem. The problem with usernames is there are no spaces, so I don't know where the spaces go. Say, should we even try to understand the movie? Is this a vibe movie? I will say, yes, you should try to understand Megalopolis. It is not a vibes movie. It is definitely not a vibes movie. A key thing about vibes movies is that they are cool and stylish, and I do not think this movie is either. Heather Tillotson says, wasn't expecting to see Sacharita, so exciting. I know, really exciting. Sacharita, who was in the Cannes video, was staying with us at our apartment in Cannes. I actually met for the first time on that trip. Now, she has since moved to the New York area. I've seen her lots of times. Sacharita is the best. And yeah, one of the great things about that Cannes trip was, we became friends. So that was really cool. 47 Jaspers says, as someone who consistently falls asleep during screenings at festivals, events, and throughout film school, thank you for validating me. You're welcome, 47 Jaspers. Don't worry, it happens to everybody. Like, I am not usually someone who falls asleep at movies, but I will say, when I was in college, there was this one screening room where screenings for most cinema classes would be held. It was in the basement of the library, and I realized, I think my sophomore year, that something about that room, maybe it was like too warm or something, I don't know what it was. Something about that room would make me fall asleep at almost every screening. Like, didn't matter what the movie was, I would fall asleep most times. And then if screenings were in other rooms, like in classrooms, even if they were really boring movies that I hated, I would not fall asleep. So for that one room, I just stopped going to screenings there. I would just get the movie out from the library on DVD and watch it on my laptop. Because yeah, it happens to the best of us. I was very relieved to discover at Cannes that so many respected professional film critics still fall asleep sometimes because, there's nothing you can do. It's just gonna happen sometimes. It's an exhausting festival. Okay, so that is all the comments from the YouTube comments section. Wow, good, we got through them. So now we're gonna jump over to the comments from our Discord server. So as I say in every single video, our Discord is available exclusively to members of the Patreon. The Discord is a very nice, chill place where we just talk about movies and stuff like that. And we have the Ask Patrick channel where you can submit questions that I will answer in these videos. And so let's see what we've got. Zyril says, hi Patrick and Emma, just saw the Cannes video drop on Nebula. I smiled more than a little bit at the part where you tried to see Furiosa. Thank you, someone who was actually amused by that. It's funny. Thank you, Zyril, for being chill. But didn't realize it was going to be dubbed into French. Some word of advice for when you go to Europe next time. Dubbing of all international movies is extremely common in the larger countries like Germany, where I'm from, and France, while only smaller language communities like in Scandinavia will use subs because the box office returns do not justify the effort put into dubbing. In dubbing countries, some cinemas will have showings in English, especially in cities with large expat or foreign exchange student communities, but it will be very clearly indicated. Here's a screenshot from my city's cinema schedule with the English showings labeled as OV, original version. I realize that's not a question, so to fulfill the prompt, have you seen Furiosa in the meantime? This is very interesting, information that, of course, yeah, I wish I had last year. I honestly can't remember what it said on the cinema website about if it said OV or what in the listing. I can't remember. But anyway, I sure did learn my lesson. And I will say, yes, I saw Furiosa the following week in Zurich, Switzerland. And I literally I arrived in Zurich, I checked into my hotel, and I just immediately left the hotel, walked 5 blocks and went to a movie theater and saw it. In English. It rocked, as you probably saw in the Vitos. It was one of my favorite movies of the year. So, yeah, I saw it. Professional Poyo says, howdy, Patrick. Great video on Cannes this week. Thank you. I too have not really gotten into David Cronenberg's newer films, and most of his other filmography in general, to be honest. I'm a horror sci-fi guy, but I just could never get into his filmography, and I could never put my finger as to why. Do you have any directors that everyone praises that you just could never get into, even if you still respect their contribution to cinema? Probably. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank on this right now, to be honest. The one that's coming to mind, the best example of this for me, is David Lynch, actually, who I really did not click with at all initially. On my freshman year of college, I was like, okay, time to finally check out some Lynch movies. And I watched Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and in both cases, I was really into each movie for a while, and then they lost me, and then I was like, fuck this guy. These movies are annoying, I don't like them, they start really well, and then he gets off in some other bullshit, and he is not for me. And then a few years later, Twin Peaks went on Netflix, and so I was like, okay, I'll give this guy another shot, I'll watch the show that everyone loves, and I think that is really kind of the perfect way to ease yourself into Lynch's thing. And then it finally clicked with me and I got it. I was like, okay, I love this show. Okay, I get what this guy's deal is. And I will say still for several years, I recognized and appreciated that he is one of our great filmmakers. I watched Eraserhead and was like, okay, this rocks. But he was never one of my guys the way he is for so many people. But in more recent years, finally revisiting some of his movies and watching ones that I had not seen before, I like him way more than I used to. And I was truly bummed, as we all were, when he passed away. And on that day, because Criterion Channel put up a bunch of his movies, I finally watched Lost Highway, which it had just been hard to get a hold of before. And Lost Highway is amazing. Did I even answer that question? I was like, well, there was a guy I used to not really like very much, but now I like him. So, I don't know, maybe revisit some Cronenberg. Watch The Brood. The Brood is so good. I love The Brood. Trusher says, as a follow-up from Cyril's comment, I imagine there's also an effect. There's so much talk about dubbing. Oh my god. I imagine there's also an effect that it is much more likely a Swede has good enough English to understand the original dialogue than a French person would. I worked in Europe in astronomy for several years, including in Stockholm for 3 years, and the Scandinavian and Dutch speakers had some of the best English skills while the French speakers were often among the weakest. Switzerland is a bit of a different case with 4 official languages, so English often ends up being a neutral lingua franca. I would also like to hear your thoughts on Furiosa. To ask a novel question, did you know ahead of time that you were going to miss the premiere of Megalopolis? So in regards to Swedes speaking English, I've been to Sweden multiple times now. I went for the first time in 2022. Stockholm, one of my favorite places on earth. I hope I can make it back there this year. I have never been to a place in which English is not the first language where I felt so little guilt about not speaking the language. Because what it felt like to me was that whenever I would go into a public place, a store, a restaurant, whatever, and then I would speak English because I spoke no Swedish, not only were the people there not annoyed that I did not speak Swedish, they seemed almost happy and proud to show how excellent their English was because everyone there speaks flawless English. And when I was there last summer on the same trip where I went to Cannes, I did a meetup on my last night in Stockholm, and I did ask the group there, I was like, hey, the vibe I've always gotten is that you guys are proud to show off how good your English is. And multiple people were like, yes, that is true. We're very proud of it. But there, I remember one guy said that he hadn't read a book in Swedish in years. He only read books in English. So yeah, and as I mentioned already in this video, I went to the movies in Stockholm to see Hitman, and it was in English. And you asked about Furiosa. Well, I hope by now you watched the Veto Awards, where it won awards, it got nominations, I talked about it at length. I love it. I think it's amazing. And another question, did I know ahead of time that I was going to miss the premiere of Megalopolis? Yes, I made the choice to only go for the second week of the festival, which meant that I missed most of the big fancy premieres. So this happened because I got tickets for the Eras tour, and that was during the first week of Cannes. I went to Cannes then the day after the concert, and so yeah, it would have been great to be at the premiere and experience the live actor in the theater for the first time with everybody else. But alas, I had to go see Taylor. Aiden says, "Hi Patrick, I know this may be Coppola's last film, but he said this past March at a screening of The Cotton Club at the Plaza in Atlanta that he is working on another film. It's based on the 1922 Edith Wharton novel Glimpses of the Moon, who is the same author who wrote The Age of Innocence. From a summary, it seems to be about a couple who realize they can't find much happiness in the Gilded Age without money and agree to split up if they find a better rich person to marry. If it gets made, it'll likely be a bit more of a traditional film, so Megalopolis may be his last film, but Coppola isn't intending it to be." I mean, look, I really appreciate his optimism and ambition, and I hope he does make another movie. I hope he makes several more movies. I'm just saying that considering how long it took to get Megalopolis made and the speed at which he's working, I would not bet a lot of money on him making another movie. And I'm just like, if Megalopolis is his final film, and I think there's a decent chance it will be, although that said, I hope Francis lives to 100. That would be great. This really feels like I have one last big statement to make. I am at the end of my life and career. Here it is, all my cards on the table. That's just what it feels like. But if there's more, awesome. I'll go see whatever he makes. Crantastic says, "Hello, Patrick. You touched on it with your bit about the ushers rushing you up the red carpet, but I would like to hear more about the film watching etiquette and culture at Cannes. I assume anyone who was caught on their phones during a movie would be sentenced to life imprisonment in the Bastille. Or given that it is France, were there moments or people you thought were being overzealous or snobby and wish they would have relaxed a little?" Okay, this is our last question, and this is a great one to end on, because, let me tell you about a wild thing I did not know about until I was at Cannes. So I will say, I can't speak for any other festivals. I don't know what like the phone etiquette or theater etiquette there is at all, but for Cannes, I did not generally encounter people like on their phones, people being rude, whatever. It was all generally fine. The one really notable exception was at the premiere of The Seed of the Sacred Fig. That was the one with like the red carpet, like a proper movie premiere, big standing ovation at the end, all of that. So what I did notice was that sitting right in front of me at this premiere were two beautiful women in long dresses who were like dressed for a red carpet. They looked like they belonged at a fancy movie premiere. And I noticed when the movie was starting, they had their phones out, were not even looking at the screen, and were just swiping through all of these photos of themselves on the red carpet. And then were like posting them on Instagram stories, and then looking at each other's photos from the red carpet. And I'm just like, are these people not even watching the movie? Are they really just that obsessed with Instagram? Then they'll like put their phone away and watch the movie for like 2 minutes, and then take their phone out again and just look at photos of themselves more. And then like about 20 or so minutes into the movie, they just left. They just left the theater. And I brought this up to my friends afterwards, and they explained, oh, this is a thing. Kind of just like red carpet, like influencer people who basically go to Cannes just to like get photos of themselves like looking hot on the red carpet, and then like they don't care what the movie is. They're there for the red carpet to get the photos, and then they're out of there. And yeah, I don't know if this is at like every festival, but it was really wild to see. So yeah, hey, look, I hope they're happy with their photos, and I'm really glad that they left. Oh, and now we have the physical mail part. Today we have 2 letters. Let's check these out. Ooh, this is from Georgia. And of course, as you're probably aware, the address for the P.O. Box is in the description of every video. It's on the About section of the channel. So if you want to mail anything in, send it to that address. And if you want to mail something but don't want me to open it in a video, just write anywhere, do not open on camera. That is all. So, okay, ooh. We have here a multi-page handwritten letter. Okay, so I will not read this entire letter here, but it talks about things like YouTube, other YouTube channels, the entertainment industry. But I want to read this one part that I enjoy. It says, "Please continue doing what you love, help out your parents, talk to your sister, be there for your friends, save your money, spend some time outside, take care of yourself, keep up with current events, think about the future, be a fan of other YouTubers, and be yourself. Thank you. I mean, that's great advice, I think, for any of us. And I will do my best. And 94 EJack, thank you for the letter. Okay, now we got another one. Ooh, it's a card. Okay, so this is just a lovely Christmas card with a Monet painting on the cover from a friend of the channel, Jacob from Holland. Jacob, thank you so much for the card. Thank you for watching. And you know what? I'm like, I gotta say, I've been kind of dreading making this video, having to talk about the Can video, and you know, the whole like dubbing thing all over again. And I was kind of expecting a bunch of like Emilia Pérez questions. And you know what? It was fairly painless. We got through it. We did it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. And coming soon, what video came next? Well, the Grand Prix one. Yeah, the Grand Prix one is after this. So yeah, coming soon, we'll talk about the Grand Prix one. Actually, like, I think one that everyone was really chill about, and that should be fun. We'll talk Frankenheimer and cars. Great. Thank you for watching. See you soon.